Okay, this is kombucha, and I'm going to show you how to do a new batch. So it brews like this. The thing on top is called a SCOBY. It stands for Symbiotic Culture of Bacteria and Yeast. So I actually already switched bottles. It was in this bottle, but I wasn't able to dispense anything out of it because sometimes the SCOBY grows into the spout, and that's what happened here. See the gooey thing? And so there was nothing dispensing out the spout because the SCOBY decided to get in there. Anyway, so that can be used again, but I'll probably have to take the spout off. We'll see if it works. Sometimes you have to actually unscrew the spout from the bottle and clean it out really good and then put it back on again. Okay, so to start your next batch, take out the SCOBY. So this top layer is what formed on this batch. It'll form in layers. So that's the newest layer right there. And it's kind of slipping off, but that's okay. It doesn't have to stay together. So I put it in there, and then I'll just kind of show you the layers. So that's a layer. The other layers have all kind of merged together. And then these are some SCOBYs from other batches. And that's called a SCOBY hotel when you put them all in to just kind of store them like that. So I always keep them covered because even though it's the end of November, I still have a few fruit flies around here, and you don't want to get any fruit flies in anything. So I try to keep it covered even while I'm working with it. So then what I do is empty this out into bottles. And I've already strained this, but if I hadn't, then I would put a funnel in between here in the bottle so that I don't get too much junk in it. Anyway, so I'm just dispensing this out. And usually for this gallon-sized jar, I'll get, and you don't want to fill it completely full because you need a little bit of room for a gas expansion in there, but you can tell it's carbonated. And this particular batch is cinnamon chai with a black tea. I'll have to put a new label on that. I'm reusing the bottles from a previous batch. Anyway, so I just dispense it all out into bottles like that. And then I have brewed over here to start the next batch. This is blueberry tea. And I brewed it and it's cooled. And you can do it kind of as a concentrate. I have 8 tea bags in here. And you'll see some leaves also. I have a couple grape and, not grape, cherry and oak leaves in here. And if you're not using green or black tea, you need to add a couple of leaves that can feed the tea. So it has to be some kind of leaves that contain tannins. Most fruit leaves have tannins. But I have a bunch of oak and cherry because that's what I had available to harvest. I'll show you over here. I just have big bags of them. So I use that. If you're using black or green tea, you do not need to add these leaves. So then, once I empty this out or clean this out, I'll just go ahead and put it in here and then I'll rearrange it, but just to show you real quick. So you don't have to completely clean it out. That stuff that's still in there will be as a starter. I usually will wash them though because of the SCOBY getting in the spouts. So you can see this is only about a half gallon. So then I'll fill that up the rest of the way with filtered water. And usually I have some in a gallon over there, but I don't have enough. So I'll just get it out of the fridge this time. So I made this tea stronger than it needed to be because then it can cool off. You can use the filtered water to help cool it if it's still warm. Hey, there's a fruit fly. See that? So they're coming after it. They can smell the fermentation, whether it's in kefir or kombucha or sauerkraut or whatever. So they like to follow the fermentation. So I just stir it or fill it up to about that level. And give it a little stir to mix it up. Oh, there's that fruit flies following around. Get out of here. And then all you have to do, get these things out of the way, is just, oh wait, I forgot one thing. You need to put about a cup of the previous batch in there. And I want this to be herbal. So I'm going to take some from the SCOBY Hotel, because this is an herbal tea that they're soaking in. And I'm just going to put in about a cup. And that's also acts as a starter. So a little bit less than a gallon of brewed tea. About a cup of starter from a previous batch. If you don't have that, you can use vinegar. And then you just set the SCOBY in there again. And sometimes it floats, sometimes it sinks. You just kind of let it do what it wants to do. And then a new layer will form on the surface. You see how there's these little bubbles here? It will kind of start looking like that, or it will look like there's little mold or something forming on the surface, but then they'll all grow together into a new SCOBY layer. And if your previous SCOBY is still hanging out at the top, it will just attach to that, like this previous one did. So then I cover it. And I usually just use a paper towel and a rubber band, or a napkin. This is a napkin. You can use a cloth, you can use something. I like to leave it where I can kind of see what's going on in there, so that I don't have to keep taking the top off. It needs to breathe a little bit, and then you're going to leave it for about a week, and then you start tasting it. So I start tasting it after a week. And to taste it, as long as your spout's not plugged over with a SCOBY, you can just take a little cup. Like I just take one of these, and I just get a little bit in here and taste it, and then I don't have to move the SCOBY or anything to taste it and see if it's done. And how do you tell if it's done? Well, it should not taste sweet anymore. So when you're brewing your tea, you're going to brew it with sugar. Just as if you were going to drink it. But then the SCOBY during the fermentation process will eat the sugar, and so it ends up being slightly vinegar tasting, slightly alcoholic, slightly carbonated. And you kind of just have to practice. Like I made one batch that just completely turned to vinegar. And then I made another batch that was too alcoholic, and so it didn't taste good at all. So you want a little bit of the tea flavor left, but a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of carbonation, kind of a mixture of that flavor. And yeah, you just kind of have to practice and get good at it. But anyway, that is the basic process of how to make kombucha. At this time of year, and I have it in a room that we have shut, so it's kind of cold. So it's taking about 2 weeks in there to process. In the summertime, it only takes about a week because the temperature is warmer and it just goes faster at a warmer temperature.